Hey, what's up guys? Jeff here with Godbolt Exotics. I'm here with Eddie Appel. We're going to talk about some green tree pythons, which is Eddie's focus. And he's going to pull out some really cool animals, and we're going to get into chondros, do some chondro talk. So I hope you guys like it.
So this guy is named Dupree, and he was produced by Buddy Buscemi and Mark Spataro. He was produced with the Mandango male related. He's like a sibling to Calico Jr. Anyways,
okay.
He's got strong Calico genetics in here. And then Buddy's female was named Kelm. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And she was just a really blue, hormonal blue female. So this guy, he looks nice. You know, he has nice markings. He's about 6 years old now. And he's been the sire of every clutch I've ever produced, and this Calico genetics makes the animals really have these crazy patterns and colors, and it's been incredible to watch these animals progress. So I'll show you some of the babies. They're not really babies anymore, they're yearlings, but then I'll show you some from a few years ago, and you can kind of see you know, how they retain some crazy patterns and colors, and they're very different from one animal to the other in the same clutch.
Yeah, one thing I like about him is you can see like the black flecks and the I guess subtle white and yellow markings. I think it's really cool on a green snake.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I've always liked about him. And if you catch in the right light, you can also see like some blue that kind of comes in along the sides.
Sure. Yeah, and there's some blue along the ridge here that you know, when I take pictures, I usually take them out in the backyard, and that blue comes out really strong. But yeah, in this light, you're not going to see it as much.
So for anybody that's maybe not super familiar with the chondro bloodlines, these are mostly designer animals. So you have the localities for green tree pythons, but then you have a little bit more of selective breeding that's gone into some of the designer bloodlines. And the Calico bloodline originated with Greg Maxwell, and he really kind of fine-tuned it. And so one thing that's typical with, and you guys are going to see this with some of the offspring that he's produced from Dupree, is that Calico animals throw very unique colors. I mean, all over the color spectrum. It's not just going to be green or yellow or black. It's going to be a mixture of everything. So keep that in mind whenever you guys see some of these babies that he's going to pull out here in a minute.
So let's go to Lucille. Lucille is a high yellow female produced by Eddie Asti, and she has produced 2 clutches for me. The first in 2014 and the second in 2016. She, well, you can see she's high yellow. I mean, she was a red neonate, but has that really high yellow coloration.
Does this have lemon tree in it by any chance?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, and it looks to me like a lemon tree animal.
There's lemon tree and OS high yellow.
The lemon tree stuff, those bloodlines were 2 of the most potent bloodlines. You know, when chondros were just starting to be bred, selectively bred for yellow, Eugene Bassett with Ophiological Services, and then the lemon tree stuff really kind of, you know, spearheaded that yellow look, you know, because these guys should be, you know, in the wild they should be all green, but you know, they've bred them to the point where the yellow is, you know, more pronounced. And one thing I want the viewers to see, if you look at this animal and you see that it's got green scales, obviously there's no clear-cut answer with chondros, but statistically, if you have a high yellow bloodline animal and when it starts to go through its ontogenic color change and it's going through the change scale by scale, like you're seeing, you know, yellow scales pop up, that's a really good sign. A lot of times whenever it's more of a green wash, because a lot of these are yellow neonates or red neonates, and then you get that green wash, that's when you may not have as much yellow as you would typically have. So this animal, I would assume, probably went through a similar color change where it was scale by scale. So how old is she?
She's 7 years old.
And I'm looking at her, and what is she, like 900 grams roughly?
Yeah, I think she's like around 12, but yeah,
okay.
She's not real.
Yeah, she's not a huge animal.
No.
And I like that, you know, one of my beefs with captivity is I think we vastly overfeed our animals.
Yeah.
But you can tell by looking at her, she's not, you know, she doesn't have, you know, wrinkles in the skin and whatnot where there's all those fat deposits.
Right.
One of the other things I love about this animal, and I don't know if you can see it through the camera, is if you zoom right up here, you can actually see her baby pattern from when she was a red neonate. So these little diamonds right here. Now that's one thing that's really cool about red babies. Whenever they mature, a lot of times that pattern you can see it into adulthood. So that's one thing I really like about her, and I love the contrast of the eyes with the the speckling on the head and everything. I just think she's absolutely beautiful.
So this is Ghost. He is a 2014 kid from the Lucille Dupree pairing, and he was a red neonate and started changing and changed into kind of an orange color, and that was it. He just stopped changing. So he has some really interesting features of his color and pattern. Primarily, obviously, is this beautiful orange color. You get kind of a bright orange to a light orange down at the bottom here. And then also the pattern, the diamonds on his back, just never went away, and they have almost this kind of purplish outline to the diamonds. And then finally you get like spots like this, which I don't even know what that is. It's just shows up randomly. It's not a pattern, it's just a red spot. There's another one over here.
Those are red scales.
They're red scales. They're just like maroon red or bright red that just came up. I thought it was blood at first, but they've been there for years now, a couple of years, and they've never changed. So he is an incredible animal. Probably, I'd have to say, my favorite animal that I've ever produced. And yeah.
Look at I'm looking at the animal and I'm seeing that there's actually different color yellow here. There's actually it's like white, and there's kind of like some butterscotch scales. And when I was talking earlier about calico animals, like this is, you've got all different colors here that are just popping up scale by scale. That's totally a calico thing. And with green tree pythons, they're not predictable as what they're going to look like as adults, but when you have selectively bred bloodlines that are fairly potent in a certain pairing, you can kind of get somewhat of an idea of what they're going to look like as an adult, or at least a range of what you're guessing they're going to be. And this animal, I would say, is probably going to be a very, very high yellow, multicolored animal as an adult.
I mean, this one's 3.5 years old, and I don't think it hasn't changed in over probably a year and a half. It hasn't.
Wow.
Every time it sheds, it's exactly the same. So I think it's done changing for the most part.
Right.
So yeah, I would expect, and you could see this really nice yellow at the end here, but I'll pull out another one that's from last year's clutch, same pairing, and you'll see similarities that I think it's going to go in this direction.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
So this one is still changing. This is from 2014. 2016. Same parents, and you can see that it's getting this similar kind of orange color coming in, and it's losing the green and getting more and more orange. And I think, my opinion is it's going to end up very similar to that one. You can even see some of the diamonds are still kind of hanging around, and
I can see much more blue on this one. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of colors in here, and this is, this one is a really good example of that calico lineage, those genetics, of the calico, and it's an incredible animal. There's a lot of incredible animals in this particular clutch, but this is probably one of my favorites. I'll show you another one in a little bit. That's another one that's really incredible.
One thing I did want to show the viewers is these guys being arboreal, their tail's prehensile, so it serves as another appendage, kind of like what I was talking about last week with the Amazon tree boas. So these guys will sit and they'll just stay poised and wait for something to either come across a perch or underneath, and they can support their body weight, just by having a few coils wrapped around whatever it is they're perched on. But one thing that's kind of cool about these versus the Amazons that I was showing you guys last week is these guys, they're like emerald tree boas, they're true perchers, so they just want 2 points of contact, like this, and they're totally fine. And you guys will see some cage shots in a few minutes where you'll see how they actually perch on just a horizontal perch, whereas you take an Amazon tree boa or a carpet python, something like that, they like to drape, so they feel much more secure whenever they have their body touching multiple points of contact. So just something that's kind of unique about these guys. And you know, as far as boas go, it's very similar to the emerald tree boas.
So this is Ella, and she's about 6 years old. Jason Stevens and Ryan
Burke.
Ryan Burke. Yeah. Sorry, Ryan. Produced this girl, and I have another male from a following year. But these guys produced some great stuff, and she produced a clutch for me in 2015, and she is. You can see she's very calm. She's still got a lot of black in her pattern, really nice green. I think she's going to shed soon, so she's a little dull, but she's a great animal. I mean, she's rock solid, and she gave me 16 eggs in 2015, and I'm pairing her up again this year. Same pairing, so it's a repeat pairing of Dupree and her, and we'll see what she comes up with, but that's Ella.
Did you keep any babies?
I do. I have 2, and I'll show them. Yeah,
okay.
Because they're amazing. I kind of didn't know what to expect with her, and you know, I had got this clutch the year before from Lucille, and they were amazing, and I thought, well, I'm not going to hit it out of the park twice, so I really didn't expect a lot, and I sold almost all the babies.
She was a red neonate, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of my thing, is red neonates.
Oh, yeah.
I really love the yellow, you know, especially with Lucille and that line. I love the yellow that you get when you start with a red neonate, and they, you know, and so yeah, I prefer the red neonates. It's a big, you know, just debate within the chondro community, or yellow, red.
Yeah.
But you know, I love both.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm gonna keep some to produce later, I prefer the red babies.
What's funny is I think that the yellow babies are prettier than the red babies,
Yeah.
but whenever I look at a yellow baby as an adult or a red baby as an adult, I gravitate towards the red babies.
Yeah.
Because I like the way they look once they mature and whatnot.
Yeah, the color that they develop into and the patterns seem to be more interesting with the red. So, all right, let me take this girl out. She is incredible. I mean,
Yeah, I can tell by.
I can't wait until she's old enough to breed. So it's not just that she's black. She is going to shed soon. So she is.
Look
really,
at the blue head.
The head. Yeah, that head is. Let me get into the light here. The head is really incredible. Yeah.
This one might be my favorite.
Yeah,
that you
well,
have.
I've had people tell me that this is their favorite animal. This is their favorite chondro, period. 2.5 years old, and this black is not going anywhere. It's just every time she sheds, it's the same. She hasn't changed in a while. So I think she's going to keep a lot of this black, which is really exciting. I kind of didn't expect that. But yeah, that blue head is really amazing.
And she came from an animal with just a little bit of black.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get with the chondros, and that's why it's so fun to work with them. You know, it's a bit of a crapshoot. It's not like ball pythons where you just get, you know, you work the statistics. Statistically, I'll get this outcome or I'll get that outcome. You don't know with chondros other than what they produced before, and so it's nice to have these to say, well, I can't promise you what the babies are going to look like, but here's what past years have looked like from that same pairing, and then, you know, hopefully based on that. But yeah, she's an amazing animal.
How old is she?
2.5 years old.
2.5.
Yeah, almost 3.
So she's got a year, and and you know, 2018-19 season, you probably be breeding her.
That's right. Yeah, we'll see.
She'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
Man, it's just something about chondros. They're such a unique, you know.
Yeah.
And you guys have heard us refer to these as green tree pythons and chondro pythons. A lot of people that have been around for a long time call them chondros because the scientific name used to be, what was it? Chondropython viridis, I think.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that. I can't remember. But I believe that's what it was. And so it's always just kind of stuck. So folks that have been working with them since like the 90s and even the 80s, maybe before that, they still call them chondros. Something I had to look up whenever I first got them. I'm like, why are they calling them chondros? And some people call them green tree pythons. They changed the name to Morelia viridis, and then they've since split that to where it's Morelia viridis, and then they have Morelia Azura. I don't know the exact pronunciation, so don't fault me there. But the work that's gone into these guys genetically to kind of distinguish between different locality types and whatnot is really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's not as big of a deal with the designer stuff because these guys are more going for like phenotype and kind of getting that really bizarre look that what you wouldn't typically see in the wild. So they're not as concerned with, locale and stuff like that. But a lot of the purity guys like Ryan Young, if you're listening to this, very much into the lineage of it. Is it going to stay like this locale and what the parents like and grandparents and everything like that. So they put more emphasis on the locale than they do the actual bloodline. So like with these animals, you're going to see a lot of emphasis on the bloodline, with these calico and the high yellow stuff. So that's one of the things that, is the driving value point with these animals. Why they cost so much is because there's been 20 years of selective breeding, breeding siblings to siblings and then outcrossing them to make sure that the gene pool stays diverse enough to where you're not going to have imperfections in the offspring and whatnot, and then crossing it back into siblings to make sure you're keeping that gene of whatever it is you're going for very, very potent and strengthening that phenotype. So that's what you see here. That's a very, very selectively bred animal. That's why you see you wouldn't find an animal like this in the wild most likely.
No.
So.
Nope, probably not. If you did, you should capture it.
And bring it to the U.S.
Yeah, bring it. And the other thing I would like to say is that, I don't know if you've talked about it in previous episodes, but Jeff is kind of a pioneer when it comes to chondros because he was doing it before I was doing it, and he had some amazing animals back in the day. So, he's no novice when it comes to this species.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing I probably should have started with is coming over here is a little nostalgic for me because I used to keep chondros exclusively. I don't feel like a pioneer at all, but I love the species a lot, and I love the designers just as much as I love the locale stuff. And so coming over here, seeing some of these animals, seeing some of the stuff that Eddie has, and kind of looking back and seeing where, I used to have some of the same bloodlines a long time ago, and it's really, really cool for me, just from a nostalgic, aspect. So.
Sure. Hey,
it's awesome.
Siblings.
And they don't even know it.
No. No idea.
I'm here with Eddie Apple. Is it Eddie Apple or
Appel?
Appel. Let me redo it. Okay. I never know how to pronounce your last name.
That's okay.